My microwave has this very useful ability to bring food back to life. Oh, store-bought baked goods, for example. Have you ever noticed? It's just better if you pop them in the microwave. Nuke it. If you get some of that store-bought coffee cake or donuts or muffins, well, they may not be, fresh like you just got them from the bakery today, but we found they're so much better if you heat them up. Now, what happens is this. The heat makes them softer. Yeah, the other day I had a cookie that was getting a little on the elderly side, and so I put it in the microwave, and it came right out of the oven, soft and warm. Sometimes the box will even tell you that you ought to nuke it, and sometimes it will say, better when heated, or something like that. Actually, that would be true of about half of the human race. I'm Ron Hutchcraft, and I want to have a word with you today about the heat that heals a heart. Now, our word for the day from the Word of God comes from 2 Kings chapter 5, verse 1. We're reading about a man named Naaman who, it says, is, quote, commander of the army of the king of Aram. He's a great man in the sight of his master, highly regarded. He was a valiant soldier. Now, that's at the beginning of the story. At the end of the story, in verse 17, he is saying to God's man, Elisha the prophet, your servant will never again make burnt offerings and sacrifices to any other god but the Lord. Wow. Something happened in between these two verses. Something that made this man of war into a man of God. Now, what is it that makes a warrior into a worshiper? Well, I didn't read what it says after he was a valiant soldier. Let's go on. But he had leprosy. Oh. So he goes, and Elisha tells him he has to wash in the dirty waters of the Jordan River 7 times in order to get well. And it says Naaman went away angry. He said, I won't go into the dirty river. We got rivers back in our country I could get into. Hey, if he asked you to do some great act, you would do it, wouldn't you? Why don't you go and wash and be cleansed? And then we read in verse 14, so he went down and dipped himself in the Jordan 7 times. Okay, he's finally humble. And his flesh was restored and became clean like that of a young boy. Now, Naaman did not yield to God until there was something bigger than he could possibly handle. When I say that, I've probably just described about half the human race, my half, the male half of the human race. When God turned up the heat on Naaman, he softened his heart so he could save him. A man says, hey, I can handle it. That's our motto. I can handle it. I'm in charge. I'm in control. And so we give God money, we give him time, we give him belief, but we want the control. And God hears us say, I can handle it, and he says, oh, no, you can't. And so he sends to us men something that all our ability and our power and our connections cannot handle. A child goes astray. Something happens to our health, our job, our marriage, an injury. The breaking of the man is the making of the man. And it's not because God doesn't love you. It's because he does. One man told me recently, God could never get control of my life until my son attempted suicide. Another man recently said, I almost died in an accident and I finally surrendered to Christ. See, God does this over and over again with us men, the humbling thing. So we will finally let go to the Lord. And guess what? Then we're finally complete. We're finally whole like Naaman, only after he was broken. See, God turns up the heat on us men because we get pretty hard, like those old pastries. And he uses this heat to soften us up so we can finally become all we were created to be. Maybe he's been turning up the heat so you would finally turn your heart to Jesus. Would you do that today and let him make you a man you could never be without him? We're always better after we've been through God's heat. Because remember, the breaking of a man by the Lord is the making of the man.